Most people have no standards. They're just going through life, accepting whatever it is that comes at them, and they're not making decisions, actions, and aligning their behavior with specific standards, principles, and things of the like. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, because I feel like it's a very, very important, conversation and a topic. And, having these standards is something that has really, really impacted my life greatly, right? So I want to break that down. Welcome, everybody. My name's MJ, the Mastermind. Welcome to the channel. If you're new, this channel is all about personal development, law of attraction, and all things in between. And if you are already a subscriber, man, make sure to click the notification bell so you're alerted every time I post a new video, all right? So today, man, we want to talk about the importance of standards. All right. And man, let's just jump right into it. Right. So, the way that I look at standards is standards are like your guidelines. They're they're not rules, but they're decision anchors. Right. You can consider standards as decision anchors. Right. The only way you can know, right, if you're making a decision that's aligned is if it aligns with your standards, right? Now, going back to what I said in the beginning, a lot of people are making decisions, taking actions, and engaging in behaviors that may not actually be aligned or congruent with their best self, but the way that they may not even know that is because they haven't defined their best self. They haven't defined their vision and they're not clear on their standards. All right. So when we look at standards as decision anchors, again, it allows you to not only decision anchors, decision, action, and behavior anchors. All right. Now, what this does is it almost forces you to live in alignment and be congruent with this specific version of yourself. Now, a key part of this is obviously being integral in the sense that you actually have to live by the standards. Once you create the standards, you list the standards out and you have clarity on the standards, obviously you got to live congruent with those standards. All right. Now, what does this process actually look like? This process begins with first having clarity on who you want to become, what that best version of yourself, your ideal self, what that version of yourself looks like, right? Because you have to get to a point where you can define what's acceptable, what's not. And this is going to be very, very helpful for a lot of people, because when you have clear standards, it makes your decision making so much easier. For instance, so one of my standards is I run a 5K a week. Okay. And for context, I hate running, right? I hate running. A few months ago, my accountability and I, what we do is, we set goals for the week, right? And if you do not complete your goals for the week, what happens is you're forced with a punishment. Okay. And a couple of months ago, my punishment was to run a 10K, right? And I absolutely hated it, right? But it also was a challenge to me. And now it's something that I do on a weekly basis because it's challenging, it's good for the body, and it's just a great way to start off a Sunday, right? Now, I say all that to say is now that's my standard, right? Today, I didn't really feel like running. Today, I didn't really feel like running. I gave my word to one of my close friends in the accountability group that I was going to run a 5K outside. My last couple of 5Ks had been on the treadmill. So I ran a 5K today. I didn't necessarily want to do it, but it's my standard now. And when you're a man of your word and you have these standards, it forces you to actually, live in alignment and congruent with that, right? So that's an example. Another standard for me is uploading 4 YouTube videos a week, right? And I've been consistent with that. I don't always feel like doing these videos, just to be honest, right? Sometimes I just rather study, reflect, right? Do different things, but that's a standard, okay? And it's helped me be consistent with the content. So when you have these, another standard is like going to the gym or exercising a certain amount of days, or reading daily or journaling daily, right? These are some of mine that have really helped me mold into a better version of myself, right? And that's what the standards are there for. Like the whole purpose of the standards is to align yourself with that best version of yourself. So you're engaging in the thoughts, the behaviors, and the actions that are congruent with that best self. Okay? So it's important to have these standards in different areas of your life as well, right? You need to have standards for yourself, right? How you treat yourself, how you treat your word, or you're a man of your word, your body, your time. Like, just have natural standards for yourself, right? Then you want to have standards for your relationships. You want to have standards for business and work and finances. You want to have standards for your environment, standards for your energy. You really want to have a standard in every area of your life, right? So you know what's acceptable and what's not. There's a clear line, right? There's a clear line in the sand of what's acceptable, what's not, what's aligned, what's not, what's congruent, what's not. And I promise you, y'all, this makes things so much easier. It makes decision making so much easier. It removes the feeling out of it, in the sense that you stop making decisions based on feelings and you start making decisions based on principles and your standards. Okay? Now, another good thing when it comes to the standards is that they're like a filter, right? I kind of talked about this in the decision alignment framework video. If you haven't seen that, please go back and watch that. But it acts as a filter, because now when you're making your decisions, you're having certain thoughts, you're engaging in certain behaviors and actions. What then happens is now you're forced to remind yourself of your standards. And like for me, y'all, I got the standards written down in the notes app. Right? I got the standards written down in the notes app. And one of my standards is to read my standards at daily. Right? So, this is something that you should be able to quickly reference. And that's why it's also important to make sure your standards are written down and something that you can reference continually and repeatedly, even multiple times throughout the day, just to reset your mind and get you back to baseline. All right? Or even in times of impulse or times of temptation or times where you may feel like you're slipping off track, just pull out your standards real quick, reference them, realign yourself, and reset. All right? Now, obviously, this is good information, right? But it's important to actually take the steps, y'all. So if you are watching this video and you're not clear on your standards, just open up the notes app in your phone, title it standards, and create a list. Like, what time do you wake up? How many days a week do you exercise and go to the gym, right? Whatever is important to you, like in these different areas of your life: fitness, health, money, work, relationships, right? All of these different things, we should have certain standards that we can always come back to and make sure that we're in alignment and make sure that we're congruent. All right? So y'all, please take the time to do this practice. I promise you, it's going to add extreme value to you once you have clarity on your standards. Just to kind of give y'all an example, let me open mine up, right? Standard: I am a man of my word. I am diligent in all things, right? I live in alignment with the required identity. I meditate daily. I visualize daily. I journal daily. I read 10 pages minimum daily. I express gratitude daily, right? This is just a sample, right? But there's probably like 25 things on this list, right? Now, that's the thing. Like, you want to dial this in. There should probably be at least 20 things on your list of standards, right? Because you really want to define it. All right, y'all? Please take the time out to do this practice, y'all. I promise you it's going to be worth it. It's going to be very valuable to you. It's going to give you a lot of clarity. All right? Much love, everybody. Peace, love, and abundance. Until the next video, thanks for tapping in.